You are listening to the Slow Living Podcast, and I'm your host, Stephanie O'Day. What if I told you that you could truly have the life of your dreams, the life you've always wanted, one filled with abundance, joy, and a sense of purpose? It's absolutely possible, and I see it each and every day with my coaching clients. It all starts with learning how to slow down. You deserve to live the life you've always dreamt about. Let's get started. Hi there, Slow Down Society. Steph here, and we are on episode 142 of the Slow Living Podcast. I am thrilled to have my friend Amber Taggard in the house today. Amber and I met at a business conference, and we immediately hit it off because she has an entrepreneurial spirit. And even though I kind of try and pretend that I'm not an entrepreneur, I guess technically I am. So Amber and I could talk to her for hours. And so I wanted her on the show. She has created an amazing life and business for herself. And I'm going to read her bio, and then we're going to let her explain how she got this all started in her own words. But Amber is the owner and founder of The Organizer Chicks, and she is a professional organizer, time management coach, and public speaker. She holds a Master of Science in Clinical Mental Health and is passionate about using her counseling and psychology background to help people improve their mental and emotional health by creating peaceful and productive physical spaces. Professional highlights for Amber include being a contributor to Forbes, giving a TED Talk, and being a Better Business Bureau Torch Award for Ethics winner. Amber, her husband Jason, and her 4 children and 2 dogs live in Northwest Arkansas. Amber, thank you so much for agreeing to get up early and record with me and spend so much time. I just greatly appreciate it.
I am super happy to do it. Great to hear your voice. I do have to say real quick, my husband's name is Justin, and I would be very
Oh,
remiss if I did not shout out the man himself who's holding
I
down the fort.
apologize. I have old lady eyes and I misread. I am so
I
sorry.
totally,
Justin, we think you're amazeballs, and thank you for marrying Amber because she's great. So
yes, thank you.
you must be totally awesome.
Honestly, he is a wonderful human being. He was a teacher and a football coach for 14 years, and actually is a stay-at-home parent now. We have 4 kids, and the youngest is just now in kindergarten this year, but he has really wanted to
Wow.
be a stay-at-home dad for a long time. And so one of the professional highlights of mine that's not on that bio was the year that after him asking for a little while, can I retire and stay at home and be a stay-at-home dad? He's always been the cook. He's very tidy. He's always been the grocery shopper because he's the cook. And so we were able to bring him home a few years ago. So he 100% makes things happen. Sometimes people say things like, "Oh, how do you do it all?" And I'm like, by not doing it all, by not being under the impression that I can or that I should, frankly.
Yeah.
And I'm a good public speaker. I'm a good organizer, but my best skill set truly is identifying awesomeness in other people and bringing them into and keeping them in my orbit. And he is one of those
Wow.
awesome people for sure. He's just a lovely human.
Wow. That's amazing. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Amber. Thank you for
Absolutely.
kids. And okay,
Yeah.
so we'll unpack a whole bunch of that because I know you have 4 children and you're an organizer, and I know probably the kids have chores and all of that kind of stuff.
For sure.
But a lot of times people write to me and we talk about slow living and the
Mhm.
American dream. Um, and to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you and your family are living your own version of the American dream.
I think synonymous with the American dream is the ability to try to do your own thing. And this is one of the most amazing places in the world for exactly that reason. We're not born into a system that lets us know where we're going to remain our whole lives. We're not assigned job titles due to our birth or, whatever, government oversight. We are gifted the responsibility and ability to choose for ourselves. And so I was very lucky to have entrepreneurial parents and to kind of be able to see that you can think outside the box. I do a lot of speaking in schools, and one of the things I talk on a lot, the talk is called "You Do What for a Living," and the concept being that at some point in your life, somebody well-meaning will probably hand you something like a course catalog at a university, and
Mhm.
you will feel compelled to believe that the list that is now in your hand is the typed up options for all of the rest of your days. And I think it is an amazingly overwhelming and sometimes scary but beautiful thing to know that there is no exhaustive list of all of your possibilities or potential. The only thing that is going to limit you is the limits of your own work ethic, talent, and frankly imagination. So if you're willing to find a pain point for people, and you can bring a solution to that, and you do that with compassion, without judgment, with a genuine desire to serve, you can monetize any skill set that you have. So
Wow. So you grew up with entrepreneurial parents. At what point did you realize, okay, the life I'm trying to create is not found in this course catalog, and I need to kind of invent my
yeah.
own life?
So I'm 45. So I was a graduate of 1997. And this was an era in which we were all being told our whole lives, college is the way. College is what's going to get you ahead. Got to go to college. And certainly not just me, like my entire, like everyone who's an Xennial, right? Like we're kind of that little micro generation between Gen X and millennials, where we had this very analog, Wi-Fi free childhood, but then we kind of came of age during, the internet, the cell phone or whatever. And so I was one of those. And college was absolutely the thing. And I knew that it was. And I worked hard and I got a scholarship, full ride to go to college, was handed that list and thought, geez, there's really nothing I want to do here. I guess I'll get an undergrad degree in psychology because I
Mm.
like people, and because I'm interested in how the mind and relationships and grief, and all of that works. And I don't know what I want to do when I grow up, but I know it'll be for and with and about people. So I got an undergrad degree in psychology. And as I tend to do, I just got really plugged into my university and was very active and just fell in love with school because I'm a giant nerd, and fell in love with people around me. And after I graduated, I became a recruiter for the university. And so I spent the next 6 years actually traveling around, lots and lots of frequent flyer miles, lots of rental car points, recruiting students specifically to the honors college. And, during this time period, one of the benefits of this job was that I had a 90% tuition discount
Mm.
for graduate school. And so I'm an opportunist, and I think that word gets a lot of bad press, but I just think it's someone who's willing to see or create opportunities and take advantage of them. And so I knew that I would kick myself if I didn't, even though I had a heavy travel schedule, take advantage of this opportunity. And so once again, I found myself with a course catalog in hand, looking at a list of options, none of which really, really spoke to me or felt like the calling on my life. But a master's of science in clinical mental health was available, with a K-CREP accreditation, which is a very high accreditation. There were a lot of clinical hours, and this is a very long master's degree. But I knew that was very interesting to me. And again, I knew that whatever I did, it would be for, with, and about people. And so I started working on that degree. And it was actually while I was in grad school, I got really interested in productivity and barriers to productivity. And I think, like a lot of skill sets in life, my capacity for organization and for time management was born out of weakness. I have a terrible memory. I always have had. I inherited that directly from my very brilliant but highly forgetful father. And I also inherited his hands and feet. How unfair, right? But that is neither here nor there. But I learned at an early age because I'm an oldest child, and so maybe geared biologically, or maybe just the structure of the family toward being a high achiever, right? Of wanting to set that good example and just do a good job, and be well thought of and those kinds of things. And I missed an assignment one day in the fourth grade and was like, well, now I'm dead inside.
Oh
I
no.
forgot the teacher called my name to come to the front of the room and present on my book report, and I didn't have it because I had forgotten that it was due. Yes. And this just like murdered me. So from that experience, I recognized I have to get organized. I have to manage my time. I have to start using a calendar. I have to start. My mom, God love her, asked her to take me to Walmart, and she just did. And I stood there in the office supply session, not knowing what I was doing, but thinking to myself, well, I've got a yellow math book, so I'll get a yellow folder for that class. And I've got a purple English book. And so this was the beginning with a Lisa Frank Trapper Keeper of a color coded life, essentially. And I learned to manage my time and to manage my physical space as well, because I can't depend on my memory to know where I plopped my cleats. And practice is coming and I need to get ready.
Yeah.
And that was stressful to me. So, but out of that ability, I learned that productivity was a real key for me. And as I got older, as I got into college and as I got into the workforce, I saw what a benefit that was to me, and that other people would lean on me heavily to kind of take care of some things because of those skill sets. And so I got interested in productivity from a clinical mental health standpoint, came across the statistic that the average American is wasting 17 minutes a day, every day, looking for things that they've lost or misplaced. And that's on average, right? And so the first thing my nerdy math brain did, was like, what is that math? What is 17 minutes times a day or times a week, a month, a year, times the lifespan? And essentially what it comes out to is we're creating an additional 1,038 work shifts for ourselves, and
Mm.
essentially giving away a year, almost a full calendar year of our lives, being overwhelmed, yelling because no one can find the left shoe, running running late places. And because I was in this mental health space, I thought a lot about what's going on with us during that 17 minutes. And it's not kindness, it's not sweet talk to ourselves. It's a
Mm.
bunch of negative self-talk, right? It's a bunch of what a loser I am, and no one's going to hire or promote me. And that is avoidable through the power of creating and maintaining organization. And so that was really the light bulb moment for me when I thought, okay, I think there's a pain point that exists apparently
Yeah.
in Americans. And I think that I have a skill set and a personality type, frankly,
Yeah.
that can help people, solve that. And it's incredibly rewarding work. It is incredibly intimate work. You meet somebody, shake their hand, and 10 minutes later, you're in their tax records in their underwear drawer.
Mm.
Um, and so, but it's incredibly interesting, and I just love it. I started a company called The Organizer Chick, singular, in 2011. And so it was just a girl and her label maker. And to be honest, I had no idea if anyone would pay for me to help them
Mm.
with decluttering, with organization, because in 2011, this wasn't really a thing. Today, you can turn on networks and you can watch shows about this. You can read best-selling books about this kind of thing. It wasn't a thing, especially in Middle America in
Yeah.
2011. And so I didn't know what the market would bear in terms of pricing. I didn't know if it would catch on, but pretty quickly I got busy and was having to book people, weeks into the future, and that didn't feel very therapeutic. And so I brought on my first chick in the flock. And I thought this will be great. She'll take half the workload and I'll take half the workload. But pretty quickly, what happened is that she got just as busy as I was.
Yeah.
And then the real magic happened when we started to work on jobs together. And, the saying that the whole is more than the sum of its parts. And that was certainly true here. Not only were we more safe in numbers, not only did we have more fun being able to be social together, but the productivity was better. Two people working 5 hours each just couldn't give the same bang for the buck
Yeah.
as the two of us working 5 hours together. And so that was the beginning of my understanding that team was the way that I wanted to grow my company. And so we've just continued to grow year over year.
Keep
There are
going.
17 chicks in the flock in Northwest Arkansas now.
Oh, I like
And
that you keep circling back to this 17 number. That's really
it's
interesting.
interesting, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
we're hiring again right now because it's that time of year
Yeah.
again. But yeah, we've got a small branch in the Woodlands, Houston, Texas, and I am currently right now in Central Arkansas where we're opening a branch here.
That is wonderful. So
So
you
very.
gave us so much information, and this is so phenomenal, and my hat is off to you. You have a few things I want to unpack. First of all, that term zennial. So I guess I'm a zennial, which makes
Uh-huh.
sense because I always thought I was Gen X, but then also my sister-in-law and brother-in-law are Gen X, and
Hmm.
they seem a
There's
little
some
bit
differences
more,
in.
yeah, they seem a little bit more
Hmm.
boomery than me. And then my other brother and sister-in-law are what so no. So I say other brother. I have one brother, and then
Okay.
Adam has brothers. um they're millennial, and many times I feel like I'm more aligned with them, but not
Hmm.
really. So I do like that term zennial. I'll have to dive into that
Look
a
into
little
that for
bit more.
sure. I think it's like people born between like 77 and
Yeah,
83 or something. Like it's a fairly small
interesting.
little subsect of
Okay.
society, but our lives were just different. We drank out of the water hose in the summers. We were booted out of the
We
house,
did. Yeah.
But then we had email
Yeah.
addresses before we finished high school or certainly,
Wait, we
in
have
college.
what kind
So
of dresses?
email addresses.
Oh, email addresses. Sorry,
Yes.
I'm thinking like clothing. Yes, yeah. No, we most def did. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay. And then yes, I too had a trapper keeper. Mine was dark green with
Love it.
pandas on it in a bamboo
Classic.
forest. Loved
Shout out
that like
to the
Velcro
trapper keeper.
noise. I
Takes you right
still,
back, right?
yeah, I still actually like Velcro. I guess some people don't, but I am a fan of Velcro. I had a Velcro wallet. I had Velcro tennis shoes.
Oh, that was a hallmark of our childhood for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
No one was teaching us to tie shoes. They were
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah. And then the 17 is fascinating to me because 17 has always actually been my lucky number. Adam and I met,
Oh,
and on the 17th, we celebrate the 17th of our wedding anniversary. Every month on the 17th is our date night. And if we see 717 on a clock somewhere, we try and take a picture or a screenshot and send it to each other. So, um, anyway,
very
that's where
cool.
my brain
Yeah.
went is this is why Amber and I hit it off.
Click.
So what's interesting though is that you went from being a solopreneur to all of a sudden this vision of I want to start a company. I want to do these things. So walk me through that. Was it just I want to help more people or I want to make more money or I want to retire Justin or how did all of that kind of come in place?
Yeah, it was some of all of that, and it was one little thing at a time. The truth is, if I had known in 2011 where things were going to be today, I wouldn't have done it. I would have been overwhelmed. I would have said, I don't have an MBA. I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't know all of the things that I would need to know. I don't know that I can lead, that I can scale, that I can do all that. I'm so thankful that I didn't know because I think it was scaring me off. But one thing about my personality is I just cannot stop seeing the next step and the next step and the next way to grow as we continue to serve people and they have like genuinely life-changing experiences when you take a mom who's so overwhelmed that every time she opens the pantry she just wants to cry and she has to do that 3 times a day every day
Mm,
and you help that become an experience that isn't just like I can live through it but like oh my gosh we have people who will call us and say every time I start to feel stressed out I just go stand in my pantry and I just breathe so like
oh, it turned
it's such
into
a
their
gift.
happy place.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, like, man, life is just too short to be overwhelmed by things that we can control. And that's for me, I'm just so aware that this world is a little crazy. Can we just be honest? There is a lot in this world that we cannot individually fix. And that doesn't mean we shouldn't be anxiously engaged in solving problem where we can. We absolutely all should plug in and put our shoulder to the wheel where we can. But none of us can individually control the economy, the politics, the climate, the sickness, whatever the things are. But what we can do is become the architect of our own neurotransmitters because our external environments impact our internal environments. And I feel like doing what I do for a living with the education that I have is highly unusual. And to be honest with you, and again, this may come back to birth order, but I feel a heavy sense of responsibility to kind of
Yeah.
preach the gospel of the ability to regulate your own dopamine,
Yeah.
to deregulate your cortisol output, right? So there's just a big part of me that wants to, and I think this word kind of gets thrown around too much and overused, but empower. I want to empower people. And to be honest, mostly women are our clients.
Yeah.
Men and women experience a cortisol, which is our stress hormone. We experience a spike in cortisol when we see pictures of clutter, even if it's not our own clutter. So humans across the board, we tend to have a negative reaction toward clutter, even if we don't fully recognize it. On a biological level, we're having a response to that. But interestingly, and maybe not surprisingly to your listeners, women have a statistically significantly higher and longer lasting cortisol spike than their male counterparts do. And so, if you've ever thought, oh my gosh, does he not care about this clutter like I do? Does he not care that we're running, behind because we couldn't find the keys again today or whatever the thing is? It's very possible that he doesn't care like you do. He doesn't see it like you do. He doesn't internalize it like you do. And it doesn't become a part of his measure of self-worth like you
Mm,
might, my friend. And so I think it's important that we, again, empower ourselves with the understanding that A, this is happening. You are having a physiological response to your physical spaces, whether you like it or not, and whether you know it or not. You don't have to acknowledge something for it to be true. And
yeah.
all you have to do is think about a time that you walked into a nice hotel room
Hmm.
and you got that moment. That is a physiological response to the low ratio of items per square foot. Our brains love to be able to problem solve and to make sense of our physical spaces. And when our rooms and our spaces are filled with clutter or even with things that we love, if you traveled and you got tchotchkes from everywhere you ever went, it all becomes noise. Even if individually we love the things, our brain doesn't get that moment because it's not cohesive. It's not relaxing. There's not that low ratio. We can't take it all in and kind of solve it instantly like that. So anyway, that's this is a very long answer to a short question,
No.
but one baby step at a time is the way that came about with understanding. I feel like I have a responsibility as I see that this is actually really, really helping people. I feel like I
Yeah.
have, frankly, a desire to time freedom was huge for me.
Mm,
My husband and I, it took us 10 years of marriage to get pregnant the first time.
mm,
And so that's actually when I quit that job recruiting and started doing my own thing, was when this finally little bald blessing came along. And I felt like, okay, you asked for this thing, now honor it, right? And don't be
yeah.
gone 85 nights a year recruiting smart kiddos to a university. Also, though, to be honest with you, I didn't want anyone else to tell me what my top earning potential was. I didn't
Mm,
want a salary range where someone said you can earn between, X number and X number of dollars, no matter how hard you work or how many hours you put in or what kind of brilliant ideas you might have.
yeah.
And so, there's just a little stubborn part of me that just I can't stop thinking about the possibilities. And then a really cool thing happened as we continued to add it to our team. You bring in a new chick to the flock and you bring in her education, her experience, her talents, and those are amazing things. And we now have offerings at the organizer chicks that are not my personal wheelhouse at all. We have a style chick and she does wardrobe editing and personal styling. That's not
Mm,
my wheelhouse, but we can offer that because of the team that we've built. And so, one thing at a time, one person at a time, one experience at a time, one opportunity at a time
yeah.
is really how it's all been built.
Yeah. It's interesting. I wanted to circle back about the two words that you say sometimes get thrown out too much. So one is empower and then the other is opportunistic. And the empowering is really interesting because empowering can come from outside of yourself. But when you're calm and you're centered and you know deep down inside who you are, that
Mm-hmm.
feeling of power comes from within. And then it doesn't matter, like you say, the economy could shift, the weather, your hormones, all of these different things can get thrown at you. But when you're grounded and centered, you know who you are. That's
Yeah,
when your own kind of personal power comes from. And then
fully
when you
agree.
are grounded, that's when opportunities sort of seem to come to you rather than you chasing. And so you teased yourself and said that you are opportunistic, but in a good way. And I would absolutely agree with you. I think the reason it gets a bad rap sometimes is people think that means that you're taking away from someone else. And that's not
Right.
it. I mean, this is not a zero sum game. I know Amber and I both truly believe that there is plenty of pieces of pie out there, and you can live the life that you've always wanted, the life of your dreams by just kind of following the
Mm-hmm.
breadcrumb trail. And you don't know what's at the end yet, and that's okay, but just take the next best step that feels good for you. Hey there. Are you looking for an easier way to meet your goals without sacrificing your ethics or morals? If so, you're going to want to check out the new masterclass I recorded on how to achieve more by learning how to slow down. I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but I promise you that this is a proven system that works. If you're ready to finally meet your personal and professional goals without sacrificing yourself or your sanity, check out this new recording at stephanieodea.com/masterclass. Okay, back to this week's episode. You had also said that, okay, so I don't have an MBA. So, and I want to highlight and circle that because you ended up going to a pretty amazing crash course business school, and then you won. you literally won. So Amber, if someone's like, wait a second, tell me about this. How did you go to business school in a week and then win?
No doubt, no doubt. So there is a, yes, business school turned reality television competition. It's actually billed as the world's largest live-in reality television show for entrepreneurs, of Wes Bergman fame. So I'd not heard of Wes before. Love the guy now, but if you are at all familiar with MTV's Real World or The Challenge, he is like a 20-year sweetheart of the MTV world. And while he was wrestling pigs and living in jungles or whatever he did on reality television shows for part of his life. In his real life, he is a Kansas City, like Midwest guy who loves entrepreneurs and understands how much small business is the backbone of the American economy. And he also understood that there is just a huge crash and burn rate in small businesses, especially in early years. And so he started a long time ago taking his winnings from all these crazy television shows that he was on and returning to Kansas City and investing in startups. And he started essentially, like you say, a school that is a for equity incubator. And that has been going for a very long time off air. No one was televising this. But eventually he decided, you know what, I can bring my two worlds together. I can use all my knowledge and my history and my connections in the television world and bring all these lessons, all these modules, all these teachers and mentors that I've been putting together from this school. And I can make something really cool and really unique and really powerful and educational. And so he created, it's called the Blocks, BLOX, and it's about the building blocks of entrepreneurship. And so essentially, yes, it is a 1 week, the craziest, hardest, most beautiful week of your life. And kind of how I would describe it is what you're going to get there is the meat and potatoes of an MBA. You're not going to get the history. You're not going to get the backstory. You're not going to learn about the theory of things. You're going to get what do I actionably need to go home and make immediate and big changes in my business. And so every day of competition, there is a different subject. And Wes will teach, it's totally a lecture style, hours long course on whatever the subject that may be that day. If it's scaling, if it's funding, if it's SEO or branding, whatever it is. So he teaches about the subject, and then all of the contestants are broken off into different pods where they're assigned every day a different judge slash mentor, and they are immediately put to the test with the subject matter they learned that day and taking that, again, like general information, but plugging it into their particular business model. How am I going to take this back to Northwest Arkansas and plug it in as a professional organizer? And you're given a very short amount of time. You have 15 minutes. Here's the rubric, put this presentation together, go. And so every pod, every judge has to declare who won their pod that day. And then at the end of every day of competition, the individual pod winners come together to face off in what they call the blocks off. And everything along the way, everything you're doing, it's all there. It's a point system. So he's gamified this entire schooling situation to make it fun and interesting, and to have at the end of the day something to declare was a winner of that experience. And so yes, part of season 5, a winner, so proud, and such just a fun learning, growing, stretching experience. Met amazing people. Some of my judges and mentors are still people that I'm very close with in my life. There's probably not 3 days in a row that go by without me talking to someone from the blocks if it was another contestant from my season or from another season. And especially now, I actually just got back pretty recently from being a judge on season 13, which I felt like was such a full circle moment for me. I actually, as part of my winner's acceptance speech on season 5, was just talking about what a blessing this had been for me, and that I was going to go home and I was going to implement the things that I had learned and make Wes proud, and that if he'd have me, I was going to come back as a judge. And by golly, I did. And I'm just so thankful to be able to be just a piece, just a little cog in that beautiful machine. That's, I mean, honestly, just changing so many people's lives. And you can watch it on Prime Video, as a matter of fact. So
Yes.
you can feel free to check
Yeah.
out that show and learn for yourself if you're interested in small business.
Yeah. So the blocks, BLOX, it
That's
is
right.
an app. You can put it on your phone and
Yes.
watch all of the past seasons, and some of the seasons are currently on Amazon Prime. You
Yes,
do
indeed.
need to purchase the seasons.
I
Amber
think
and
it's
I,
99 cents a season. Yeah.
yes, it's
Yeah.
not a big deal. It is literally well worth the money. Amber and I met during season 13 of filming. She was a judge
Mm-hmm.
and mentor, and I was a judge and mentor. That season, this episode will air in June. I'm not sure when that season comes out. I believe it'll come out the fall of 24. But if you're
Probably.
listening to this
You
in
heard it
another
here,
time,
folks.
yeah, and you can Google and do your research. I'm pretty picky of who
Mm-hmm.
I recommend and who I don't. So episode 70 is about sniffing out scams. I unfortunately have fallen for scams in the internet
Mm.
world and
Yeah.
throughout my own entrepreneurial journey. And so I'm very, very hesitant to recommend anything out loud. Um, the blocks and Wes and Amber are the real deal, and put ethics and morals first and foremost. And I think that is really why Amber and I clicked so quickly. Is we both have a family first mindset and motto. She we filmed in an Indian casino, and both got sick, and so spent times momming each other and giving each other tea and cough drops
Pop
and
rock.
hugs, and like, we can do this. And it's tricky because being away from your kids for a whole week for me was actually a long time. I don't travel
Yeah.
much. I'm kind of a weenie when it comes to airplanes and being away from the kids. But just knowing that there's other people in the room rooting for you and
Yeah.
not trying to compete or take away, that was for me the biggest difference between the blocks and other business conferences that I've gone to and
Mm.
entrepreneurial showcases. There has been
Yeah.
plenty of times that I've been in a room with a whole bunch of entrepreneurs, a whole bunch of quote unquote businessy people, and
Yeah.
they're looking over my head to look for someone better in the room, or they're only talking to me with the idea of what can you do for me?
Yeah.
And that doesn't feel good. That's when the icky part of being opportunistic comes about, when people think that they're
Exactly.
only like networking with you because you can
Yeah.
somehow help them. No, this was an entire room of people who really are truly trying to help and nurture and boost and create connections. Like, oh, I actually do know someone who might be a good fit for you. Hang on, let me Google them and get you connected on LinkedIn. That was the vibe, and it was,
Yeah.
gosh, so fulfilling, Amber.
No, first of all, let me just backtrack a little bit and say thank you so much. I take so seriously, um, your willingness to say, like, I attach my name to this person. That's the highest compliment, and I really appreciate that. But you're exactly right, and that was my experience on season 5, and I thought, what a fluke! How lucky to be in this room of 100 plus people, and just everyone is obviously, like, you want to win, right? You want to represent your company as well as you can, like, you want to do great. But yeah, what a unique choice experience. And then to go back for season 13 and just feel that same vibe all over again. And there's a huge 1,000 plus people now in the alumni community, And I mean, this is why 3 days don't go by without me talking to someone. Either I'm helping them make connection, they're helping me make connection. We're problem solving. Sometimes we just
Mhm.
call and, even if you're not in the same exact trench as me, you're in a trench somewhere as an entrepreneur. There's always one. And so just to know people, even if they're at a different, point in their business, phase of their life, side of the continent, none of that really matters, because having someone that kind of gets what you're going through is a beautiful thing, because the truth is it can be so lonely to be an entrepreneur. I've actually said it feels in some ways like the breastfeeding days, which probably sounds like just
Yes.
the weirdest. But
So,
there
so,
was
so,
something
so
so
that
beautiful but
said, if I
lonely.
could go back to like feeling productive and sitting on the
Yeah.
couch and binge watching Gossip Girl while nursing, I would do it again in a
Sign
heartbeat.
me up.
Oh my God, I loved everything about it. So
That's awesome. I'm
I
glad that was
totally
only a
hear
good
you.
experience for you. For me, there was something so incredibly lonely about it. And this is coming from like the 2 a.m. feedings, I'm sure, while I still had to
Yes.
get up and like do the job in the morning kind of a thing. And especially as other people were now depending on me to bring in clients so that they could do their jobs. But the thought that like I'm the one. I had two of my four babies who just like would not take a bottle at all. And so I am solely responsible for nourishing this thing. And if I don't do my job, if I don't have peak performance here, we're going to have real problems. And it is all on me. That is very mirrored to how I have felt many times as an entrepreneur. And one of the reasons that the blocks has been just so incredible as a contestant, as a mentor slash judge. I will hope to always be connected with, with those people.
I think you will be. And I absolutely and completely agree with you. I didn't realize how lonely I was and how the word depressed gets thrown around also a lot,
Yeah.
but I probably was and didn't really realize it. I wasn't
Yeah.
taking care of my health the way that I should. I didn't realize I had sleep apnea for years and years and years. I just thought this
Wow.
was what moms were supposed
How
to
it
feel
is.
like, what entrepreneurs were supposed to feel like. Um, and
Mm.
then when I kept getting fired because I didn't want to write about the Instant Pot, and quote unquote like hit my rock bottom, I took a
Yeah.
day job, and
Hmm.
I felt like a failure for quite a few years actually. And then COVID hit, and
Yeah.
that kind of reawakened my creative juices. And so now that creativity and that entrepreneurial spirit is
Hmm.
reawakened, but I have these other like parameters in that I can only do my online business and coaching and solopreneurism
Yeah.
in a certain amount of time a day. And instead of
Hmm.
feeling constricted, I actually feel energized, because then that creates all of this extra like creative energy juice that I didn't know that I needed. And then I keep
Yeah.
going to work. I work in an elementary school, and all of my social needs are met. And they do not want me to be creative. When you are in a bureaucracy, the rules are laid out. Like,
The
no,
red tape is firmly in
yeah,
place. Yeah.
this is what we do, and we do not
Yeah.
deviate. So I
No,
go
no
there,
derogation.
they keep paying me. I sort of liken it to adult daycare. This is just what I do. And
Yeah.
yes, there are benefits and a pension, and I married Mr. Spreadsheet and he loves all those things. So
Love
all of
that.
that is great, but I am actually so fulfilled now, Amber, in that all of the different like wants and needs are finally meshing in this phenomenal way. And the entrepreneurial side is still growing, and you're absolutely right that
Hmm.
there's no limit to that, whereas in a quote
Yeah.
unquote bureaucracy, like, nope, this is your pay scale. And
Yep.
and that feels so fun. It's like sprinkles, like, ooh, how many more sprinkles
Hmm.
can I put on my cupcake now?
No, I agree. And I love that you've created that for yourself, that you did some outside the box thinking. And, what you said about, judging yourself harshly, I find that to be such a commonality, specifically among women. We are so hard on ourselves and on each other. And that's one of my like pet causes as a professional organizer, is to help people stop saying, "Oh, I'm so embarrassed to show this," or "I bet this is the worst you've ever seen," or "Oh, please don't judge me." Man, the truth of the matter is, you're good at 22 things that I'm not. And that's not just okay, it's wonderful. That's how we were designed, to have different strengths and weaknesses, and we need each other. We were created for tribe, for clan, for community. We are not supposed to go through the hardest things of life, to have these newborn babies, to go
Yeah.
through grieving our parents, to go through whatever life transitions and go lock the doors of our mini mansions and go through that alone. We were
Yeah.
not designed for that. And so, man, if anyone is listening today and they're like, I need to, delegate something in my life, but I feel like a failure about it.
Mm.
Oh, I hope you will grant yourself permission to kind of rethink that narrative and say, well, not only am I not a failure for not being good at all of the things, I'm also enabling some other person out there to step into their zone of genius to benefit their economics. And I'm good at 22 things that they're not. And that's wonderful. We need each other. And that is not a failure.
Yeah. So in your everyday idness right now,
Yeah.
you started the organizer chicks and you've
Mhm.
hired other organizer chicks who then work for you, and you've got the 4 kids and you're speaking and you're doing all the things. So uh what does your own kind of like schedule look like? Like, how can you do all the
Yeah.
things all the time without kind of going overboard and
Yeah.
nuts?
That's a great question. And again, it's something I said early on, is that I don't think that I can, and I don't think that I have to do all the things. I have had a great success at building an amazing team of people around me, and we have structure and hierarchy within that team. So we have people who are maybe just, a little younger, or they work a little in, I don't mean young, I mean age wise younger, just younger to the company,
Sure.
or they work infrequently. And so they're organizers, but then we have lead organizers, we have executive lead organizers, and then every area has a director of operations who can take clients through the entire process, from intake session through shopping, through leading the hands-on work or whatever it may be. And so I've worked to create a structure in which I'm not required for the everyday hands-on work at all. When the company first started, for the first many years, I physically did every job. I shook every hand of every client. I knew everyone by name. If the work was getting done, it was because I was doing it. And I came to a point, a pain point, frankly, where I decided I was going to have to decide how I wanted to be uncomfortable, that I want to experience the discomfort of knowing that I could grow, that I could scale, but there just weren't enough hours in the day. And so I wasn't going to. I was going to have that kind of discomfort. Or was I going to have the also very real discomfort of starting to delegate things and to hand things off to other people? And there's a tendency, at least for me, and I think for a lot of entrepreneurs and just women, to think like, well, but I can do that the best. I
Mm,
can do the intake session the best, or I can, but can I send the email the best? Can I do the invoicing the best? Can no one else make a phone call as well as I can? No, of course they can. So I had to ask myself the question, what can I uniquely do? And I
mhm,
think that is a super important question for us to all ask, no matter what we're the CEO of. We're all the CEO of our own lives. What needs my particular skill set and
mhm.
perspective and background? And for me, that wasn't doing a lot of the little daily things that I was actually doing. I had competent people in place, that I had taken under my wing, if you will, allow another pun in there, and who were very capable of handling day to day stuff. And stepping out of those roles allowed me to step into more of a CEO role, to take on opportunities to do more public speaking, to travel to more places and research where might be a good next location to scale, to do a reality television show and win the dang thing, right?
Yeah.
So and similarly, I'm very blessed that I have a husband who is so domestic. He has, long before we retired him, he's always been the cook in our family. Remember how I told you that you were good at 22 things that I'm not? Well, one of them is cooking. I literally never learned how to. Real story. I went straight from my parents' house to a dorm where I had a meal plan that was part of my scholarship, to being a married woman who just got lucky and married someone who not just knew how to cook but enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And so, he is incredibly like handsome and burly, but also super domestic. What? How lucky am I? And so, point being is that just like in my work life, there are things I just don't do, and I don't really even try to do. Like, that's
Mm-hmm.
not my zone of genius. That's not my wheelhouse. I'm going to be over here. And that works because we've agreed that it works, right?
Mm-hmm.
That works because we candidly and lovingly communicate, or because we are respectful of each other's desires, because we're checking in constantly and making sure that no one's feeling that too
Yeah.
much is on their plate, or that that it's working for the whole. And again, back to that focus on family, focus
Mm-hmm.
on the team, treating your people well, paying
Mm-hmm.
them well,
Yeah.
respecting their time. We do something at the Organizer Chicks that I honestly think a lot of companies should look at and start to emulate. We have an app called Hen House, because of course it is. And the girls go in and they tell us what they want their availability to be.
Mm.
We only book them for the days and times that they want to be available to work. And so, Americans do this thing where our job is just the epicenter of our lives.
Yeah.
And it's just right in the big fat middle of every moment
Yeah.
of our world. And then we just tuck the rest of who we are. This is back to slow living, right?
Yeah.
Who I am as a mom, who I am as a volunteer, as a friend, as a sister, it's just the leftover pieces that are at the edges of my 60-hour a week. By the time you
Yeah.
commute and prep and all the things, it eats up so much of our worlds. And I just patently reject the idea that it has to be that way. And so creating opportunities for other women to not have to make this diametric choice. Do I want to be all in with a career that is going to be full-time plus plus, or do I want to be all a stay-at-home mom and not have any money
Yeah.
that I could call my own, or any adult conversations, or any contribution to something bigger than my home, as important as that is. So I feel like we have been able to recruit and keep amazing women who wanted to do something outside of the home, but not to some C-suite time commitment type level. And it's enabled me to have amazing humans in my life. So yeah, that's how I do it, is by not pretending that I can or should do it all in the first place, and being smart about who I delegate. The saying is to hire slow and fire fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I take no pleasure in letting someone go, but on the few rare occasions that it has become obvious that there's a toxicity in the group,
Yeah.
or there's something that's going on, I'm quick to nip that in the bud. I'm a very straightforward person, and I think that serves me and my team really really well in my marriage as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you talked about it with your marriage, but it's also with your team. Is communication is the key. And following your gut and your intuition. If something doesn't feel right, that's a red flag, and poke at it
Yeah,
and be curious. Like, is this a teachable moment? Can we fix this? And if we can't,
yeah,
okay. So we're not a good fit, and it just
right,
is. It is what it is. I also liked that you pointed out that your job is not your identity. It's just what you do to make money. And we live in a
yeah,
capitalistic society. We need money, and you can be really upset about that. That's great. That's also not going to pay our mortgage. So we do have to find a way
X.
to make that work. So
So
Amber, I
true.
think you're great. So Amber's
Well, right
website
back at you.
Amber's website is theorganizerchicks.com. You can find her on season 5 of The Blocks and season 13. She and I are going to remain friends for the rest of our lives.
For sure.
But if you're listening and you want to connect with Amber, what's the best way for people to find you?
You bet. So, obviously our social media platforms, everything is at The Organizer Chicks. So Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, just The Organizer Chicks, or just through our website. There's a contact form on there where you can always email info@theorganizerchicks.com. Would love to speak to anybody, especially someone who maybe is having a retreat, or a women's conference, or maybe you're an entrepreneur too, and you want someone to come to speak to your crew about how they can better de-stress through decluttering and organization, or have better workflow and productivity. That is some of my favorite kind of work to do, so be very happy to connect.
Very cool. All right, Slow Down Society. I think you are amazing and wonderful. Consider yourself loved and hugged, and I will be in your earbuds again next week. Do you have a slow living story to share? Leave me a voicemail at stephanieodea.com/podcast with any questions, comments, feedback, or testimonials, and I will be sure to include it in an upcoming episode. Also, if you found value in this episode, please share it with your family and friends and subscribe through your favorite podcast provider. The more you share, comment, and leave positive reviews, the more people we can reach and share the slow living lifestyle and messaging. Thank you, Slow Down Society, and have an absolutely wonderful day.